I've already apologized to the parents over and over again. I don't apologize to you.
Objection.
Don't apologize to you.
Attorney Norm Pattis called it strategic.
We thought it was vicious and uncalled for and gratuitous.
But at the same time, the plaintiff's attorneys called for a recess to determine how they'd orchestrate the rest of the day.
You think I could book that for like the weekend of the 14th when the soundtrack comes out? If so, bump somebody. I love you, man. I got my MTV out. Damn it! I'm a savage! Oh! I'm a savage! Whatever I want, I'm going to get! Whatever I want, I have to get!
And you're confident on these cases. You don't think you're going to be behind a defendant table throughout the entire campaign, crippled and unable to campaign?
You know, if I am, it's going to show what a fake deal it all is. It's all fake. It's all just fake stuff.
Do you want it televised?
In order to interfere with the election. This was election interference at the highest level.
One person responsible for this nightmare, and he's acknowledged and he brags about it, Donald Trump.
Chief White House correspondent Mary Bruce traveled with the president. Good morning, Mary.
2020 rape conviction against former media mogul Harvey Weinstein was thrown out by New York's highest court today.
Now to another big headline. Arizona's governor plans to sign a bill today repealing a 160-year-old abortion ban.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Patriot News Hour. We have a lot to discuss right now, what's going on with the left in this country. The situation is dire, it's ridiculous, there's no restraint. There was an attack on the Last Supper at the Paris Olympics. You had demonic figures dancing around, taunting Christianity, taunting Christ, taunting the crucifixion, going to every extreme possible to make their demonic point known. And the crazy thing is, the ridiculous thing, as I should say, is Kamala Harris made her first stop symbolizing the attack on Christianity, which was at RuPaul's basically drag queen show. And then you juxtapose that to what happened at the Paris Olympics. Is it a coincidence? Is it a collaborative attack on Christianity? Is it a belief system that intertwines between our candidate for president and the actual Paris incident happening? I just believe it's the demonic agenda altogether. I believe that's what happens when Satan is running your party and he's running the world, and he's basically enacting a hostile attack towards all Christians and Christianity. We really need to be aware of that situation and what's going on. We have news on that. We have news on Hezbollah, Hamas. A top figure was struck in Iran and killed, a terrorist. There is a war on the very fabric of the culture of the United States of America. And it's not just an internal war and an internal struggle, but it's an outer struggle in the sense of outside our geographical location of the United States of America, and other countries are trying to pick us apart as we're ripping ourselves apart because we took God out of this country. We took Jesus Christ out of this country, to the point where Russia and China are flying their bombers in Alaskan airspace, just on the brink of it, just outside, to threaten and show their solidarity against the United States of America. There is so much going on, so much we need to talk about, and we are going to pan over to the video of what happened at the Olympics. And what we want to do is turn this video podcast into an audio podcast. So I encourage all of you to check the Patriot News Hour out on Apple, on Spotify, anywhere you can get it. It's available on all streaming platforms, and donate to the show as you see fit, because somebody has to put in the plumbing and somebody got to keep the toilets working. But besides that, ladies and gentlemen, I want to give a shout out to my biggest fan, Matt. Matt, what's up? How you doing? He's one of the thousands of listeners that listens. Me and him correspond, talk about Trump all day. And I wasn't on the Trump 2024 Express. I just wasn't. I wasn't going to get on it. But when I saw the attack coming for Christianity, even though I have my disagreements with Trump, we got to unite and fight the left, to the point where I even got this Trumpinator bobblehead doll. What do you think about that, ladies and gentlemen? We'll get into that too a little bit later. But what I want to do is pan over and talk about the Olympics and show you an example of how Satan works and the demonic attack against Christianity and against the fabric of the United States of America. I only have one question for you. Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready?
He is the Bishop at the Oriona Rochester Diocese in Minnesota, founder of Word on Fire, and his comments about this have gone viral. Bishop, welcome. You've called the display a, quote, gross, flippant mockery of the Christian faith. What was your reaction when you first saw this?
Well, I was shocked and dismayed. I just came from Indianapolis. We had this marvelous celebration of the Eucharist. 50,000 Catholics descended upon Indianapolis to give, worship to the Lord. And at the center of that was the Eucharist. And then to see, I turn to the Olympics with great interest. I love sports. I love the Olympics. I turn with great interest and I see this clear mockery of the Last Supper. And for Christians, the Last Supper, when Jesus, in anticipation of his death, gives his body and blood to the world. I mean, we're at the center of Christianity. And to see, drag queens and so on cavorting in imitation of Da Vinci's Last Supper, how could Christians not construe that as a slap? I was shaking my head at as I heard some of the reporting there, all the emphasis on inclusivity. Yeah, I guess everyone's included except for Christians, except for believers. They can be mocked and marginalized and made fun of all you want. We saw the same thing last year with the LA Dodgers controversy. So, I know I have very little patience for that, the great avatars of inclusivity, but are just brushing aside Christians.
What do you think is behind all this? At one point, there was a scantily dressed man. They bring out a big silver platter, apparently like the Last Supper, reveal it, and it's a guy scantily dressed, old, painted in blue, curled up inside this thing. Where does this come from to think that, it's like, okay?
No, to me, it's perfectly clear. You have a very secularist, very materialist, postmodern culture that knows who their enemy is. The Christian churches stand as the great institutional opponents to this worldview. It's a philosophical, cultural struggle, and they know who the enemy is. So when they have a chance, they mock the enemy. And, I don't think we should simply acquiesce. If you go back to the Lord himself, to turn the other cheek and so on is not a recommendation to acquiescence or to quietude. That's a manner of engaging evil when you see it. To do it nonviolently, to be sure, but it's a way of engaging and getting in the face of things that we see as wicked. Look at Martin Luther King, one of the great practitioners of nonviolence, but you'd never describe him as acquiescent or as non-resistant to evil. So I think the Christian churches have got to gird their loins a bit here and stand athwart this pretty clear attack on us.
What is your response to the artist and the sponsor who says he didn't mean to offend? It was a homage to the Greek god of wine. That it was a message about the, quote, absurdity of violent behavior of human beings.
Well, let me tell you exactly what's absurd there. He's never read the myths about Dionysus. Read the myths of Dionysus and so many of these ancient gods. They were marked by extraordinary amounts of violence. And the Christian churches, looked at the ancient myths and saw all these problematic depictions of ultimate reality. Christianity proposes a God who is indeed a God of love, of forgiveness, compassion, and nonviolence. I'm sorry, but I don't want to go back to the ancient gods, especially Dionysus. You think that's a symbol of nonviolence? I recommend you go back and read those texts. And here's what really bugs me. If we just keep mocking Christianity, what will happen when, in our culture, people no longer hear the story of the prodigal son? They no longer hear the story of the Good Samaritan. They no longer see the depiction of the Last Supper for what it is. They no longer see the crucified Christ. What will happen to our culture when those things are mocked out of existence?
Ladies and gentlemen, there is more going on that meets the eye. Dionysus is the least of the problems. This ritual, as far as the Paris situation is concerned, is rooted in demonic activity going back 4,000 or 5,000 years ago. It's absolutely disgusting and reprehensible. It is basically old, ancient, demonic worship practices repackaged for human consumption in the 21st century, dedicated to Molech, to Baal, to basically every single demon out there. They know what they were doing. This is a demonic attack, and Christians need to stand up and rise up and make their voices known. Across the panacea of the United States of America, let alone the entire globe, the entire world. We have an attack going on by the left with our children, trying to give them so-called gender reassignment, reconstructive surgery to make a male child a female child and a female child a male child, with replacement hormone therapy, destroying their lives. And parents have been so brainwashed and so manipulated by the satanic forces in the deep state, that is, in the liberal party, that they're simply giving their kids over into Satan's hands, to the point as these little kids are dancing around at the Olympics, practicing in paganism and demonic worship. Satan is on a tear right now. He is a roaring lion, going to and fro, seeking who he can devour, and he's devouring many, 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 many people. There is a reason Jesus Christ said, narrow is the path that leads to heaven, and wide is the path that leads to destruction, and most will take that path. Many will take that path because it's the easier route and it's the easier thing to do. You can be naive. You don't have to think. You don't have to be empathetic. You can have self-aggrandizement. You can chase all the materialism you want. I got to have more Prada, more Gucci, more this. And I'm not against things. I'm against things that corrupt the spirit. And that is America's problem. It's called materialism. And as far as postmodernism's concerned, postmodernism has always pretty much been around. It's just been repackaged. When you think about postmodern, I want you to think about satanic worship. And all it is repackaged, and everything is relative, including religion, art, propaganda, literature. And then all they will do is say this is postmodern and put a spin on it. And the deconstructionists, biblically, are really good at doing that, manipulating the truth and using eisegesis. But beyond that theological lesson, we have to understand that the Olympics is so much more than a physical situation going on that you're watching visually. What the Olympics is about a spiritual war going on. And you have the right, and you have the left, and you have the spiritual war causing tension and friction, ladies and gentlemen. And at the center, you have Jesus Christ. And he's restraining the end of the world. And the Holy Spirit is restraining the end of the world right now, because all will be lost. Thus, God is giving people time for repentance, to come to know the Savior. And like Wesley said, you have your four graces. You have your prevenient grace laid before you. You have your convicting grace, your repenting grace, and your sanctifying grace. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you do hear God speaking to you, it's time to act. There's not much time left. And all these parties are doing is basically substantially having elements of truth, from the demonic to the holy to the nonsensical to just a little bit of a mixture of everything. But God is moving through everything, even in certain religions, to bring them out of pagan worship. So God, if you want to know the truth, this so-called theatrical thespian play for the demonic, God is showing the world and letting this happen so people have time to repent. But the left is kicking it up a notch, a notch, a notch, a notch, and they just won't stop, until the point they want to take your kids to literal hell. And Megan Thee Stallion's dancing, disrespecting the Oval Office, being as ratchet as she can be. And I get it. People like hip-hop, this and that. I get all that. But what I'm saying is, if you look at the transition and the permeation of everything that's not supposed to enter religious institutions and institutions politically, because they do have a holy essence to them, generally speaking, in a sense, you could look at Romans for that God institutes all offices. People are destroying them offices. And the left is going strictly to Hollywood and demonic entertainment because they know the masses will gravitate towards that, and the deep state knows that, ladies and gentlemen. So what I want to do is I want to pan over to the video and show you what happened at the Olympics. Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready?
All right. But then there was instant controversy over an opening number featuring drag performers that some people said was a blasphemous take on Da Vinci's painting, The Last Supper. Now, organizers said, we're sorry, but, you know, the guy who actually put it all together said it was from the Feast of the Gods, which is a 17th century Dutch painting of the Greek Olympian gods, you know, the Olympian gods, because it's the Olympics. Okay. And there are many more people in the picture they're talking about here. There's people on the side, you know, and it's like, come on, y'all. It's the Olympics. Stop. They're not trying to do anything except talk about the history. They're showing you the history. There are too many people in the picture for it to be the 12 disciples and then the 7 or 8 other people who are in the picture.
Well, and
it's
also,
just more people.
When you're criticizing religion and people were offended, the director said it wasn't what he intended, and he also said the mission was inclusion. Intention matters. He came out and said, that wasn't what I intended. I'm sorry if that's what offended you, and this is what I was trying to do. Don't go, I get so frustrated with religion. Don't go by the literal letter of the Bible. Go by the example of the word, which is live with the grace, live with the forgiveness, live with, I was frustrated, you answer, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I get so tired of being beaten over the head with religious messages while someone walks along their life not living like Jesus at all. Like, really understand the mission.
Look, if people go look at the original Greek Olympians and what they were doing in pictures, you're going to be even worse.
Well, we can't even show the painting it's based on.
But, you know, I watched the whole opening ceremony. It was very long. It was like over 3 hours long. This was a very small part of it. And it's what's consumed so much of America, I guess. And I would say, you know, it happens every 4 years. There are young people who train their entire lives to be there to represent our countries. Can we please give them the focus? Can we please talk about Simone Biles, her magnificence, how she made the comeback? Can we talk about Suni Lee? This woman had the worst kidney disease, and she made a comeback. Oh, my God. Hasley Rivera, 17-year-old girl from New Jersey, Dominican descent. Can we talk? Can we give some flowers to... I want to give some flowers to Flavor Flav, who decided to pay and sponsor and help the U.S. women's water polo team because they had no money to do this. And LeBron James and Coco Gauff, they look like George
forget
Washington.
Queen Celine Dion returned, she performed at the '96 Olympics, and she had done, because she's been suffering from stiff person syndrome, she had said in an interview in April of 2024, I hope I get to return to Paris. So then to get to perform at the Olympics, I wept. I was watching, and I have to say, I went to the Pyeongchang Winter Olympics in 2018 in South Korea and got to see the opening ceremony. It is the coolest thing, and they lean into their culture, and you're meant to learn something. And I'm sorry, there's nothing more Parisian than like Marie Antoinette's head cut off, metal music playing, and then drag queens. Like that is French. That is what they're gonna do. So enjoy. It's celebratory. There's something for everyone. If you didn't like one thing, tune into something else.
And that's what we hope for folks to think about doing. If you're not happy with something and it bothers you, don't take 20 hours to write an email. Just turn the TV off. Watch something else. Put the newspaper down. Don't look at the pictures. These are choices. You know, we're back to this thing. These are our choices. You have the ability. Forget what Instagram is telling you. If you don't like it, go to something else.
Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it from the wise one herself, Whoopi Goldberg, in her Crocs, in her pajamas. I should have warned you to get a barf bag. Yes, it absolutely 100% matters. Let's just give them the benefit of the doubt and say that they weren't mocking the Last Supper of Jesus Christ. That's my dog Stella, the French, in the background. Even she's not happy about this, so I won't even bother editing this video clip. But what I want to say is it does matter Why? Because we keep getting attacked over and over and over, ripping apart the fabric of society with all of this demonic worship. So whether they meant to or not, I really don't care. It's disgusting. If you look at everything that happened, it was absolutely 100% ridiculous. And this goes in tandem with Kamala Harris's running. This goes with her campaigning. It's all one and the same thing, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know about you, but I am sick and tired of watching commercials on TV about aborting and killing babies. I'm sick of it. And the reason why I call it a fetus in Latin is to depersonalize the actual human child so you can get rid of it. And it's all based off eugenics under Margaret Sanger that goes back to World War II. In Nazi concentration camps. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm digressing. So it's a terrible thing. And who are these women? Are they theologians? Have they just went to school and studied their whole lives and gave sermons and they studied homiletics and so on and so on and so on? And I don't even know who the woman is, and I don't even want to try to find what her name is. I didn't pay that much attention. Sort of like you might even shut off the video and then turn it back on or fast forwarded it. As she says, we got to stop taking the Bible literally. Seriously? We got to stop taking the Bible literally? So it's just a relative figure of speech, subjective book that has no meaning? Well, people have already done that for centuries and made a mess of it. Church history, historians, and bishops have debated it on and on and on. We're not going to do a church history lesson. Maybe we'll do that some other time. But what I'm saying is we've already gotten into that mess, and people have accepted it too much. There's been schisms over it, and that's why we continue to be in this mess, ladies and gentlemen. So it's absolutely appalling, and I'm not going to take my biblical advice from a show that Whoopi Goldberg and these women are on. It's just not going to happen. No, thank you. I want to get my religion from an educated source, and that's why I got 12 years worth of education behind my back and basically below my belt, in a sense, so to speak, girding up my loins, because I am a theologian and I am recognized and I am writing books. But besides that, ladies and gentlemen, what I want to say is that's the problem. Liberalism has existentially went so far into the demonic, there's no coming back for it. There's no coming back from it. And I really mean that 100%. I personally think the moral degradation is going to just get farther and farther and farther into the fabric and embed itself in the United States of America. I mean, we're in the last days, for crying out loud. I mean, the signs are there. Worshipping the Greek gods. We've been there. We've already done it. We saw what happened with the Greeks and when the Romans did it. And when Nero Caesar burnt Rome down while he was fiddling on the harp. We've done all that. There's notes, there's historical documents, Elder the Plenty, so on and so forth, about the attacks on Christians because of the Greek gods, ladies and gentlemen. And them Greek gods were just basically repackaged from Mesopotamia, so on and so forth. But what I'm saying is, in politics, the Democratic Party is turning into the old Roman party in a sense, right? They are starting to worship, and they have for a very long time, more and more and more Greek, Roman, Mesopotamian gods, ladies and gentlemen. So that's just what I wanted to segue into going into this next segment. And this is going to be about the Iranian, basically, assassination that Israel conducted successfully so, and the reaction and the rage that it sparked in the Middle East. So, ladies and gentlemen, are you ready?
It is Wednesday, July 31st. You are watching Fox and Friends First. I'm Carly Shimkin.
And I'm Todd Pyro. The strike in Tehran that took out that Hamas leader coming hours after Israel says it killed a senior Hezbollah commander in Lebanon. And Iran's Revolutionary Guard says it will be met with a harsh and painful response. We have breaking news team coverage with former Navy SEAL Jonathan Gilliam standing by. But first, we start with Lucas Tomlinson live with the very latest. Lucas.
Well, good morning, Carly and Todd. Remember, Israel's prime minister had said the deaths of those 12 children on the soccer field would not go unanswered. Now, top leaders of Hamas and Hezbollah have been killed over the course of 12 hours. The two targeted killings took place in Tehran and Beirut. First, Hezbollah's top military commander, Fouad Shukar, who Israel blamed for that rocket strike in the Golan Heights that killed 12 children. The State Department had put a $5 million bounty on his head. Officials say he played a central role in the killing of 241 American servicemen in the Marine barracks bombing in Beirut back in 1983. Then hours later in Iran's capital, the leader of Hamas, Ismail Haniyeh, was killed just after the inauguration of Iran's new president. A short time ago, U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin was asked about the killing of Hamas's leader.
Can you confirm if Israel is behind the strike that killed the senior Hamas leader in Tehran? And did you get any warning that this was going to happen?
I don't have anything for you on that. And we certainly have heard the reporting, but I don't have any additional information. We're going to do everything we can to make sure that we keep things from turning into a broader conflict throughout the region.
Israel's top military spokesman spoke about the strike in Beirut against Hezbollah's top military commander.
Hezbollah's ongoing aggression and brutal attacks are dragging the people of Lebanon and the entire Middle East into a wider escalation. While we prefer to resolve hostilities without a wider war, the IDF is fully prepared for any scenario.
Israel's heritage minister says, quote, "This is the right way to clean the world from this filth. No more imaginary peace surrender agreements, no more mercy for these mortals. The iron hand that will strike them is the one that will bring peace and a little comfort and strengthen our ability to live in peace with those who desire peace. Haniyeh's death makes the world a little better." Now, Iran's supreme leader has vowed revenge. Recall back in April, after Israel killed those Iranian military commanders in Damascus, Iran launched hundreds of missiles and drones at Israel for the first time.
So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Israel simply said they're taking out the trash. Well, that concludes our show today. We are on time constraints. We have too much to do with too little time. So until next time, this is the Patriot News Hour. God bless you and God bless the USA.